Hi, everybody. This is Alex Jarett, and this is Technology Executives Review video show and podcast. And uh, this is me, your host and founder, Technology Executives Club, and also a new group we started called Technology Marketing Coach. I see a couple people on LinkedIn Live, by the way. Hi, Nikhil. How you doing? Good to see you here. And this is brought to you by Technology Executives Club. And our mission is to promote and empower technology executives and technology industry executives. And many of you know us as a event company, and we have changed, and we're doing a lot of good work online as well as some events. See all the videos we talk about today at technologyexecutivesclub.com. That's www.technologyexecutivesclub.com. You can also listen to our podcast, which is now showing on Apple as well as Spotify, in addition to our site. It's been on our site for about a year. Go ahead, and it's under Technology Executives Review. And while you're at our site, be sure and join our complimentary Insiders Club. If you want to get involved and be a regular on our media network, reach out to us and ask us about our Board of Advisors program. The Board of Advisors is the Board of Advisors to the technology community. Book a discovery call on our site. Let's get started. That's the end of the commercial. And here's what we have for you today. We've got some great content today. And so what we do is we now have a number of Board of Advisor members, and we interview them on either a TER segment or their Board of Advisors interview. And in this case, I've got a number of Board of Advisors interviews that I'm going to share some of the information with you, and then urge you to go to the site and watch the whole thing because they're awesome. And first up in a minute will be David Williamson, who's the CIO at Abzena. And then we're going to have Prabir Chatterjee, who's just recently Senior Director of BI, Data and Analytics Solutions at Spencer's Gifts. And then also, assuming we have the time, we'll do a little bit of Rob Zelinka, who's CIO at Jack Henry and Associates Leadership Insights. So I'm going to be doing these shows every couple of weeks. So if we don't get to all of them, we'll do it on the next one, and I'll show you where that is. But I should be able to get to Rob today, and he's got some awesome content as well. But David and Prabir are actually here live, so I want to be able to say hello to them as we do each segment. So with that, let's do that with Dave. See if I can use these controls correctly. And David, you should be elevated.
Or Ken?
Yeah. Hey, how are you?
Yeah, it's hold on. I got to click through like three things to give access. Yes. Hello, everybody.
I know.
Greetings.
Yeah. Well, we won't be on WebEx forever. Sorry, WebEx. But we love you now, WebEx. So we'll get on an easier platform. It is pretty tricky. On my panel, I got things everywhere. It's crazy. If I could show you the panel, maybe one day. But David is the CIO over at Abzena. Dave, I really appreciate you being part of the Board of Advisors and part of the club. And I got to tell you, I was listening to the interview just in preparation for it. We really covered a lot of ground.
Yes, we did. Yes.
Yeah, which we're gonna share. Now, just for everybody to know, Absenta, they are a really cool company. You go to them if you want to have a pharmaceutical something stuff pharma made, and uh, and then they'll actually help you make it, right? And not only they help
Yes.
you make it, but they'll help you take it all the way through the process, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So from raw research and development in and around primarily biologics all the way to full scale production. We have a wide variety of offerings to the industry, and um, that brings a lot of interesting challenges and opportunities for us as the technologists.
That's great. Well, we appreciate you being on here. And if you look at, by the way, all these folks that I'll show you real quick. Here, I'll do it right now, actually. If you go to our site here and go to Board of Advisors, you can see, where is David? I'm going to move you up, Dave. You're too far down. See David here. ask you about. You got all these different teams, and you can see all about them, and then also link to his LinkedIn page. So that's what we do there. And this is the interview here. So if you like what you hear in this little preview that we're going to do, go watch the whole thing. So David, why don't you mute yourself and turn that off for a minute? What I'm going to do is I'm going to share the whole thing. And let me just tell everybody a little bit about Dave's background real quick, so he knows. I forgot to do that. In addition to being the CIO at Abzena, he has been doing this for a number of years. He was previously at Senior Director of Analytics at Illumina and also Director of IT at Biogen. And he's got a master's in Carnegie Mellon University and a chemistry degree from, I can't even say it, Dave, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute.
Rensselaer. So
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad for jumping back in because I was
Sure.
stumbling there for real. And also served in the Society of Engineers was it the Army?
Yes, I was in the Army as a U.S. Army as a communication officer for 4 years.
Well, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Thank you for your service. We appreciate you. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to start this, and go ahead and mute yourself.
Sure.
And I'll tell you what. Just tell me that you can hear this. Well, I got you. I'm going to start this at 8:02. By the way, the interviews are longer than we have here, which is why it's a preview. And you should be able to see this. Do you see that? Okay.
Manufacturing systems.
How's it look? Give me the thumbs up.
And then ERP. So it followed that. So I've spent about half my career working in the business and half in IT. And so, but, again, I think a lot of it is around that triangle that people talk about, people, process, technology.
Yeah.
How do you bring the three of them together? So as your earlier comments on my military career, the leadership, getting people to work together, defining what are our common goals, what's the win-win that we can take away from this. And then you had been mentioning earlier while we were chit-chatting around lessons learned is, you have to build a partnership if you're an IT leader with the business. What is the business trying to do to be successful? How can you help? And how can you make a win-win out of it? You always have to have that focus.
That's interesting. Well, I interview a lot of people, but you do have kind of that perfect triad. You've got the business, the technology, and the core. You actually understand the core product too, which is really unusual for people. They have to learn it, but you actually have the core background to understand that product. But then, I'm looking at your background. You did keep moving up as you kept moving. You went to Barr Laboratories as senior director. Now you kind of jumped to manufacturing and creation of the product, because then you went to senior director of quality and operation systems at Nycomed, right? So now you're not just doing IT, you're actually doing what I'm reading at quality and operation systems. Am I reading that right? That's like
so they were a generics manufacturer, and they made hundreds of different lotions, ointments, creams, and you run into in generics, it's all about speed to market. So how can we make our processes, our systems work more effectively, more efficiently, so we can drive to be first to market? That's the first mover in generics makes the lion's share of the profits.
Well, that's interesting, because the first mover doesn't always win. I mean, IBM is still,
No.
they've been in Watson, but they're infamous for coming out after they see the market develop and then just, okay, we're here.
Yeah, well, generics, you're following the innovator. So the innovator drug is already on the market. You already understand what the market is, and now you come in and you essentially price cut it, and you
take over.
So the first one to show up gets all the movement from the people. Like, I like a lower priced option.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
For the same,
that makes a lot of sense. They come in and they just sort of take the market as soon as they can do that with the generics. That's interesting. And then finally you moved, I'll just real quickly finish this part of it. The thing that I found interesting, you were developing, kept moving up the ranks, and then you went into I can't even say the word.
Illumina, yes.
Illumina. And there's, you've made a shift. Now you're director of analytics and you're
Yeah,
really,
so I got the opportunity as part of what they call the factory of the future.
yeah.
So this idea of a broader factory from suppliers to customers of how do we need to operate to be successful 2 years from now? And so I led the whole data analytics stream. So data and numbers, where you can see it from being a chemist and going to places like Carnegie Mellon, is a passion of mine. And how do I gain insights and knowledge from sifting through the data? And you see that more and more nowadays with AI and other well-known initiatives that are basically using data, collating the data at a speed that wasn't possible previously.
That's really interesting. I mean, you're right there at the cusp in this industry of where I got to think is like the hottest spot, because now you're CIO of this company, Abzena, and like you said, you take drugs through the process. Once the ladies and gentlemen in the lab coats figure something out, and you actually make it into a viable, marketable product, is what I'm hearing. Correct?
Yeah, so it's one thing to make it in a flask on the benchtop, as we would say, and then it's very different to make 2,000 liters of it day in and day out with the same consistency, the same quality, the same effectiveness. You know, when you go to your local drugstore, you don't want to think about, well, how did they make this drug?
Yeah.
Your expectation is whether I got it at CVS or I went to Rite Aid, it's the same drug with the same quality, the same effectiveness. So that's a lot of what we drive. And then also along the way, there's a lot of different scientific techniques you can do to optimize things like yield or particular characteristics of the cells. So that's where data and AI actually plays quite a large part, because I can spend a lot of time and money checking out a bunch of different options while the AI can home me in on here's the 2 most likely courses that will be successful.
Are you using AI for analysis today with your data?
Yes, we have some research scientists. This is some part of our offerings as a company where we are using some AI machine learning models to help guide our development efforts. And as I was describing, cut the overall time for the scientific work to get the same, high value result.
That's interesting. Well, that goes back to what you were talking about, the business early, first one to market with a generic, right? Kind of thing.
Even with the innovator drug, I'm spending money, the whole development, the whole clinical process, and most of these don't work out, don't get approved. So if you can help me identify the winners, if you can help me move the winners along quicker, that has a huge financial return to it. So both for the innovator company, but also for society. There's a lot of unmet medical need out there. And if you can get that therapy to these people sooner, that has a huge cost, a huge benefit to society.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because at the end of the day, that's the business that you're actually in, right?
Is serving patients and solving, more often than not, solving unmet medical needs. Yes.
That's wonderful. That's amazing. So, you got right on your LinkedIn profile, Office of the Future. And not Office, I'm sorry, Factory of the Future. Sorry. You've got big science, big data, Factory of the Future. So how do you envision the future when you put all these things together? Because you're right, you really are right in the center of such a hot area. Plus you've got the analytics, the science, the I can't even say, the biotech. How do you envision this industry? How has it changed in the last 10 years? And how do you kind of see it changing in the future, putting all that together?
Well, I think often Amazon is an example people talk about, how they've integrated a variety of sellers to a large audience of customers. They deliver, their warehousing logistics arm is incredible with their ability to deliver, next day, almost anything.
Oh, it's amazing. Same day
anywhere
sometimes.
In the world.
Yeah.
So applying that to a scientific front is, and when we're talking about unmet medical need, and you talked about my time in Illumina, where you're studying genomics and genetics, is we're driving towards individualized medicine. So I need to identify a patient who has a need, understand the patient at the genetic level, manufacture the therapy for them, and deliver it all within a very compressed timeline. I think that's the ultimate vision, that you're not just getting a serve everybody drug from CVS, but you're getting something tailored for Alex, for your particular genetics, your body chemistry, that is going to be the most effective option for you to meet your needs.
That vision that sounds amazing, actually. You know,
yeah, it would be, because you see this often, like you take cancer treatments where if you meet this profile, the drug works really well, like it cures you. If you don't, the drug doesn't do anything.
I didn't know
except
that.
for make you sick, you know, because you go through chemo and whatnot, and you have all the bad side effects. So if we can tailor that on a larger scale, if we can even, and talking about chemo, you get sick because chemo is very destructive to your body. So if I can minimize the damage of the treatment, like the treatment shouldn't be worse than the disease. I think there's a lot of opportunity there for the tailoring of these things at a level as our scientific knowledge is increased that just was never possible before.
That's unbelievable. So what are you doing
there? And you think
there?
about, you know, my comments about the quality, the efficacy of the drugs, to be able to do that at a scale of one. Like you go by your Toyota, like the Toyota plant is, I think, a scale of 2 or 3 cars. So if you could drive that for the medicine, for the drugs, then I mean that is huge implications, not only for treatment but also costing, and because I'm not keeping inventory, I'm only making what I need.
Wow.
There's a statistic. So just look up how much like vaccines the states throw away because it went bad. Like we bought all these vaccines and we only used half of them, and like, there's so much waste. And so, you know, the more I can remove from it, the more I don't even need to make the stuff in the first place unless I know I need it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's amazing. So now we back up. You're giving us the vision of the industry. How does that relate to your role? I mean, you're the CIO. Tell me how that all works.
Yeah, so IT, a lot of it is connecting the dots between the different business functions, the corporate strategic goals, and how are we going to use technology to help move that forward. So if you look at that vision, like the Amazon example, integrating directly with my suppliers, here's what I need, here's the quality of what I need, the manufacturing and laboratory operations, so that they know when are we going to manufacture this product and what would be required to do so, out to the logistics arm to get it to a pharmacy, a patient, so that they can be treated. So the IT group winds up being involved in a lot of different things. Scientific research generates a lot of data. And like we were just discussing, there's tools and technologies now for sifting through that data rapidly, for gaining difficult to find, what would have previously been difficult to find insights, and doing that on an integrated level. So Abzena's 3 sites in 2 countries. So you start with in the UK and research, and then we move it to the manufacturing plants in the US. And how can I do that seamlessly and have it, and it'll appear like we're all in the same place, even though we physically may not be. I mean, that's like us on the Teams call. You know, the technology can serve a lot of purposes.
Man, you know your stuff. I mean, I listened to you, and you've got this incredible vision, but then you've been able to operationalize. You've helped this company operationalize how to get all this done.
Yeah, I think the use cases come up. Sometimes they're much simpler than you would imagine. As in, I'm trying to manufacture something in Pennsylvania, I have a problem, and I can get on a video call with the research scientists who develop the process, physically show them what I'm trying to do. Like that, these capabilities, like we take, FaceTime and WhatsApp for granted, but
Yeah.
it brings a huge amount of capability. And then you add virtual reality and like the goggles, then I don't even need to be holding the phone to interact with the scientist. They can see what I'm seeing. And
are you doing that now? Are you doing twinning and all that where you're in the environment?
Not at Abzena. We did quite a bit of that at Illumina, especially during like the lockdown. So supporting the various laboratories around the world that were using the instrumentation. So having the support tech who's in the lab, wear the goggles, and then all the supporting individuals could join the call and watch what they're doing.
Do you see? Because one of my favorite authors, God bless him, he's gone, is Michael Crichton or Mike. And he wrote about this in what was the movie that Well, yeah, he wrote about this, and now I kind of visualize what you're saying is where you could have different people virtually working together, is what you're actually saying. So you're all are starting to. That's amazing. Now,
yeah, I mean, you think about if I was going to try to describe to you how to jumpstart your car. So then it's like, we'll take the red cable and attach it to the red. Well, you probably open the hood on your car and there's more than one red thing. And then did you need this one or that one? Like the ability to see exactly what you're doing adds a layer of error proofing that's incredible. Well, they always say that, picture's worth 1,000 words. So in many of these tech support, customer support instances, adding the video it makes a tremendous amount of benefit to really understand what's going wrong.
Yeah, well, now that I'm hearing what you're saying, you've got your manufacturing process trying to duplicate what they did in the lab, and then you could literally get on in a virtual call with these folks and show them what you're doing, and no, this is what you do,
right?
Kind of
but also for like new employee orientation training events that I can have an expert on a topic train people that way. I can add text images into the field of vision of the individual, so the capability goes well beyond just me being able to see exactly what you're looking at. I can aid you in many ways. I can add, the laser pointer in your field of vision to point out, no, this is where I want you to look or touch.
That's amazing. If we go back and look at career, you've already mentioned a number of lessons learned. I mean, I think the most important one was I got to tell you, from your Army experience, the teamwork part. You mentioned the importance of teamwork and where you learned that, and then also understanding the core business. You mentioned the importance of understanding the core business. And for you, understanding the core business was actually understanding chemistry. If you think about it.
My background in that has helped a lot.
Yeah.
It's not insurmountable that people can learn this, but I also just have that innate curiosity about, what are you doing? Why are you doing it that way? And learning the literal science behind the products and what we do. So that's curiosity. But I think all great leaders have this thirst for knowledge and curiosity of always learning something.
Yeah, I think so too. But the balance is, okay, there's time to keep learning, and there's time to doing also.
Yes.
So how do you strike that balance? How do you know? Like, okay, we've learned enough. Get this one out the door.
Yeah, I mean that's a leadership challenge too. What is good enough? 70% done, 80% done. So I think that's another thing, through experience, through ensuring you have the right stakeholders and they're in a venue where they feel empowered to speak their mind and raise concerns or like, I think we're good, let's go, sort of comments. And so culture is another lesson learned of fostering a culture of learning, fostering a culture of openness where people feel that they can challenge others, that they can speak their mind, ask questions. That helps the productivity of the team greatly.
I can imagine. Now, come on back, Dave. That was awesome. So remind everybody, go to the site and you go into Board of Advisors and you look for Dave, and then you can watch the whole thing. So let's get back to our slides here. Oh, how that happened. There it is. Dave, you there? Oh, there you are.
Yes.
Hey, how you doing? That was awesome.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
That was really great. I mean, you did such a great job with that. Everybody, I want to urge you, if you're into some of these topics, as you know, and you'll see this with Prabir too. I could talk to you guys forever because they're so interesting. And I think what's interesting about you, Dave, is you've got sort of this triad. We talked about it in the interview, where you actually know the chemistry as well as the business, as well as the technology.
Yes.
Right. And I think that helps a lot. And then you tie all that together with the leadership skills that you learned in the Army. I mean, right. So I think that's pretty cool. By the way, on LinkedIn Live, we do have a couple questions that have come in. First time we've done this with the LinkedIn Live and the questions. So Nikhil's on us 30 seconds after us. So Nikhil, I can only ask the questions you've already typed. All right. So much of the, I'll read them all to you, and then you can answer in the time we have, real quickly what's appropriate. All right. Because he's got some deep stuff here. Much of the work is widow and orphan drugs. How do you associate precision medicine into delivery of these drugs? And then he also said, the role of interoperability and access to provide data in clinical trials to help rapidly create these drugs and monitor the clinical trial process and pharmaceutical vigilance. And then finally, also, since we're on the topic, what about companion diagnostics, and how do you see them playing there on the multi-omic model that you were speaking to? So do all that in like 30 seconds for me.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is quite a lot. Well, from my role, the first question is the most applicable, is how can we help our clients understand the biochemistry, the biology behind their therapy and how it would work in the body. So the innovations our research group does out of Cambridge, and again, where I had mentioned in the interview, that's where we're applying AI to help drive these to get the best outcome for our clients, the best outcomes possible out of the particular therapy. As far as I think you see the role of diagnostics with the COVID crisis and having the COVID tests and all. The more we can understand what isn't afflicting someone, the better we're going to be able to tailor a therapy. So when I'm talking about a population of one and having a particular medicine just for one individual, yes, we'll need a lot of diagnostics and instrumentation to understand everything we need in order to manufacture that therapy of one. And I think that applies in the clinical trials too. As you see, the better I understand the patient population within that trial, the more ways I can slice and dice the data to see are there impacts from the therapy that we weren't looking for, or that are beneficial. So I can use that. Many medicines on the market are used for multiple ailments, and can I get that and understand that during the clinical trial versus doing another trial looking for another usage as we would traditionally do.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'll tell you, I could call this Stump the Panelist, and I think you did a pretty good job of answering. That would have gotten me. This first one would have gotten me. But listen, Dave, we appreciate you. Thanks for being on the board of advisors. By the way, if you want to, again, to watch Dave's entire, where is that? To watch his entire interview, it's really great. Just go to the board of advisors, find Dave on the sheet, and then click on the page. You can watch the whole thing. But if you want to reach out to him, there's a quick just to get to him right there on LinkedIn. I'm sure he'd be happy to connect with you. Just say you saw him on LinkedIn Live, that kind of thing. David,
right.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you. Welcome to stay for the whole thing,
Will
but
do.
we're going to have Prabir on next. So why don't you turn your
All
stuff
right.
off and we'll have him come up.
Yeah.
So
Have him
Prabir,
come on down.
yeah, he'll have him come on down. So Prabir, I'm going to make you whoop, and make you a panelist. Yeah, I did. All right, come on back, Prabir.
Alex, I think my video is not working still now.
Yeah, well, I just turned you on, so you should be able to find it now. So all of a sudden it should show up. We'll be right with you, everybody.
Yeah, I can talk, but my video seems like, WebEx is not recognizing it.
That's weird. Do you have a button that, because as a panelist now with David, he was able to find it right
Yeah,
away.
Prabir, I had several pop-ups where I had to enable access to
Oh,
get the
okay. I
camera
think
to
maybe
work,
because
and
of
then
that.
it had a noticeable delay once it was enabled. I know maybe your pop-ups hid behind your browser.
Yeah, I've got different pop-ups also. It's kind of, you got to find them. Well, wait, everybody, let's give Premier a moment to see if we can get that. I want you to see him.
There you go.
There you go. Looking
Hi.
good. Thanks, David. Appreciate you helping with that. So great. So you should be able to see the screen, everybody. And let me just read Prabir's background, and then Prabir, I'll do the interview. I'll play the part of the interview. Ours was pretty long, actually. It's pretty good. So I can't play the whole thing here, but and then you and I will come back for Q&A. How's that?
That
So
sounds
let's
good.
say hello. So Prabir,
Thank you, everyone.
yeah, it's great to have you here. Prabir, you ought to go, everybody should check out his LinkedIn profile. Again, you can find his page on our board of advisors. Here you can see Prabir. You go to the page, and then there'll be a link to LinkedIn. You can also just look him up. That's his name, Prabir Chatterjee. And you'll see me. I'm connected. If you're connected with me, which you should be, you'll see me through him as well. So Prabir, he's let's see. Right now, you're the interim. You're the just came on. This is recent, right? Interim Chief Technology Officer at SPAATech, and a company called SPAATech, which is awesome. And I think you're actively involved in that now. Now it's a data analytics and data consultancy business. So congratulations on that. That's brand new. And when we did the interview, you were Senior Director of BI Data Analytics Solutions at Spencer's, which has Spencer's Gifts and the Spirit pop-up stores, which everybody probably recognizes. Maybe didn't know that Spencer's Gifts, right? Prabir didn't know that Spencer's Gifts own that. That's where you get all the Halloween stuff. They're the biggest pop-up store in the North America. And previously before that, he was Global Director of BI Analytics at Serva. And the thing I found that was really cool about that opportunity is not only did you do data, BI, analytics, everything that has to do with the world of data, you also integrated all that data into the product that Server delivered to the customer. So I got that summary correct, right?
Yeah, you got it. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's awesome. And he's got an MBA from University of Illinois. And your original degree, I think, was, I want to say off the top of my head, physics, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was computer science first and major, and then after that, the executive MBA.
Yeah. And he's been doing this for a while. He's worked with a lot of great companies I don't have time to mention, including IBM. And so a lot of great background. So we had a wonderful interview about data and changing your culture data, how to make it a culture of using the data, share data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share that with you now. Come on, I'll have you come back when this part's done. And I got the time here. Thanks, Prabir. Just go ahead and mute yourself and close your camera off, and I'll see you in a few minutes, all right? Let's see.
Company like Fortune Brand. These are the companies we worked on.
Yeah.
And it was a really change, because after I took my MBA class, it gives me to think about how the real business runs and where technology can bring it to a different level, right? Everybody thinks about technology means technology. It can be a cost center. It can be just expense, nothing else. But during the period of that time, I
that's
realized,
interesting.
and
Yeah.
that was my perspective to go in that company at the jump in, so that I can think about at the shoe of a C-suite people when they think about the business and how the technology is making them successful on their own business.
That's interesting. Now you
And
take
that-
it even, go ahead.
That even leading me towards and more in the data side of it, not sticking to only the infrastructure side, and not only sticking to the hardware side of it,
Yeah.
but more of the going to the data, because that's the area where company can make, I would say, the most out of their technology spend to really successful of their operational improvement and as well as the customer.
So you would say that $1 spent on analytics, data analytics, you get a better return than $1 spent on infrastructure or anything else any day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is the main thing, which is continuously I'll be doing it to when I'll be meeting with the companies and things like that.
Yeah.
Guys, you spend $1 of a infrastructure to just processing things, but think about if those informations is nowhere to used, what will happen? You are not getting nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. So that's an interesting insight for you, because when I look at your background, you went from doing this architecture but it was data architecture, and then you were director of technology at SP3, but it was an analytics company, SP3 Analytics. So you dove right in and you were doing that, and it makes a lot of sense. Now I've spoken to you since then, obviously recently, and you have this theory about data, using data to, how do you say that? Using data to help the company get better. What's your sort of strategy about that?
So if you take a step back and think about it, right?
Yeah.
It used right now these days it was black oil, right? Data is the oil now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Every company they require some energy to go forward, and that forward means they have to take the right decisions. They have to take the right implementation process. They have to improve the process. And guess what? Who will be doing it? Data, right? So they have to be data centric. Then only they can see the benefit of their investment, benefit of their success. If you look at the federal government, when they're doing the interest rate cut or down economy, what they're looking at the data point. So every decisions which you make in a company is based on the data. And that journey for each company is really crucial as we more and more competitive and more technology innovations happen. Data would be the key. I would say that it will the blood of a company.
It makes sense because the technology, it's the infrastructure is now something you buy. You just rent. And the infrastructure people, you go to Amazon or Microsoft or whoever, right? And they'll give it to you. And they have all the tools and everything. But the thing that makes you different is the data.
That's correct.
That's the
correct.
differentiator.
And
so how do you
go ahead? Sorry.
Well, go ahead. You were going to say something. Yeah.
No, I was saying that one because yes, infrastructure and all those things, it can be easily, you can buy and go one step at a time. Okay, this is not working. Okay, buy another bigger machine. If it doesn't work, buy another bigger machines. Oh, if it doesn't work, just go to the cloud and buy 5 different servers, buy another cluster. You can do that. But what about the data? If data is still within your company and you are not using it, you are not going forward, because until you use the data, you cannot go forward.
So what's interesting about your background, which I really didn't know until we started talking today, your core roots were A in math, go all the way back to physics, and then you became a data architect, and then you learned how to read businesses and how businesses added value to both, I assume, to both their customer and to their shareholders, right? Because it's the purpose of business is to serve your customer, but also to make a profit. And I'm talking about for-profit companies. And how do you approach that as a data architect? Like if you go into a company now, like a Serva or like a Spencer Gifts, or somebody said, "Hey, Prabir, help us." How do you go in there and sort of analyze how they're using their data, their business? I mean, what approach do you take? Let's say you got a new gig, you get what I'm saying? Like okay, you're head of our data department, you're chief data officer. What do you do?
Yeah. See, there is a multiple approach, but the key approach would be is what is your business goal? What is your business you want to achieve from there? Is that you are getting it through your data which you have? Do you have the enough information to make the right decisions to meet that goal, to meet that objective in your company? Does everybody understand that they have their own contributions to the data which is moving around the company? Is it everybody is understanding that these visions and the data, they are aligned each other, right? So my approach in that case would be coming in to look at the process which brings the data from wherever your source is. If your source is coming from a consumer who is going to the retail store and giving you the data because they're buying stuff from you.
Yeah.
Or is it the data is coming from your manufacturer or your supplier or maybe your own manufacturing unit who is giving you all the specifications, all the quality of the work, all the other things. So data is coming from both sides. Now, is this data is coming through your entire chain of operations, and how it is flowing through? Is it everybody is looking at the same informations, or they're looking for the individual informations on their own and thinking that that's the best information?
Mm-hmm.
And so my approach in that case is to making sure that this data is flowing through, everybody understand the same data at their point of entry in their life, whether it is managers, whether it's directors, whether it's suppliers, they understand that the data which they're receiving that data has the same meaning across the organization.
That's really interesting. So do you create sort of a data architecture map kind of thing, almost like an enterprise architect would do?
That's a sub-product of it, right? But before you even go and create that architecture, you define that what kind of data would be.
What's important.
What's important.
Yeah.
And is that data is aligned to your strategic objective of the company? Is the vision aligning to the vision or not? Is it, if you are let's say, for example, if you are just a little company, right?
Yeah.
And your main target is to making sure your customer is happy, whatever they're buying, that is it worth for spending that money, right? So that means you have to have the product informations in a perfect way to explain them that this is the product does that. Otherwise, you will be one day it will come, it will not come back. So you'll not be return journey to your store unless you have the right information in front of them. The next thing is also you have to understand the customer, right? What the customer wants, at what point they in their regular process, because customers is moving through their life as well, and their taste of the buying patterns is changing over the period of time. So you have to know those informations as well. So having those informations is coming in is first level of understanding, and then you plug in together. You cannot do anything that as a big enterprise giant model or anything like that to serve that purpose. What you have to do is you have to understand those data points. You have to understand that which one is important for you to successful as a company, and then making sure this data is accessible properly in an organized way, so that it is more meaningful to everyone in the organization, starting from the operator, who is the help desk, who is taking the phone, to all the way CEO when he is presenting to the board.
And how long does that process typically take you to do when you come into a company and help them?
there is no hard and fast rule
Yeah.
on that, right?
Yeah.
If you look at the ERP implementation, it goes 10 years, right? But in the data side, if somebody is spending the 10 years to build that culture, it will not take like 10 years. You have to build the culture first in the data side. Data is a culture. It's not
Oh,
just,
really?
yeah. You have to build that culture of the data in the organizations. Then only you will see the success of that.
That's great. That's really interesting. You really got this down. So let me ask you a couple other questions. If you go back to your, we've been jumping around because I've been asking you keep bringing up interesting stuff and I keep asking you questions about it. But if you look at these experiences, it sounds like, listening to you already had the analytics and the data down, but then you really kind of merged with the broader business background once you got your MBA and you had a better sense of how these companies actually succeeded, right? It sounds like, yeah. And so now when you go into these organizations, that's why you're saying, what are the strategic goals of the organization? What are the outcomes? That's what you're saying, right? You start there.
Yes, absolutely. I think you will hear. Let me do a little twist here, right? Keep that information side on it, because the data is a lot of vague ideas there. We talk about all these analytics, we talk about the data, we talk about the reporting, business, and all those things. And you will hear that if you open up the books on the data side, everybody is like, oh, we need to do a business sponsorship. We need to business this. Why they're asking for the business sponsorship? Why they're asking for the approval from the C-suite people to do that? Because that is the most important thing, is understand the data culture need to be improved in the organizations before even you think about, oh, I need a PowerPoint presentations with the information. I get my 3 VPs of sales and they give me the report, and each report says differently.
Yeah, it's different. I've heard that. Right? Yeah.
Sure. Why we do need the people first? You have to first get the chief executive officer understanding that, okay, all the information which you are collecting is outcome of the data which we have in the organization, right? So that means that understanding is first, and that's the reason I'm talking about the culture. The cultural improvement is required for getting.
That's really interesting. I've never heard that before. That's a big insight. So if you're going to change the use of the data, you got to change the culture. If you want the proper data, you got to change the culture. So what are the symptoms? If I'm the CIO watching this, or the CEO watching this, or CXO, and I'm like, I don't know if my data isn't working for us. Like, what are some of these symptoms that you see that kind of clue you in, Prabir, that you're like, they got an issue here? Like, what do you see?
Yeah, I think we all say that Microsoft product is in Excel. I don't know, Excel culture, right?
Yeah.
Is the culture is, if you see that everybody is creating reports from their own spreadsheets.
Yeah.
It's a sign of you really need to look at the data side as an enterprise. Right?
That's really, yeah.
Right? Then
where's that not happening? Who has this figured out? Does Amazon have this figured out? Does Google have this figured out? Are they really data-driven organizations that are totally wired? You know what I'm saying?
I would say that they are.
Yeah,
they are. And when I go to different companies, and even and always they say, okay, hey, tell me what is the data maturity of this company, and by looking at every aspects of it, and we say, okay, you have the data, no doubt of in the organizations, you have the data. The only thing is that how you are using the data is most important, and that tells you that where you are in the maturity level. If you say that I have a data which is in the spreadsheet, and every time I just copy and paste of the data to create my report, and then provide that to your managers, your senior managers, your executives, like that. So that tells you that you are not utilizing the proper data in a way that enterprise needs. You are using your own things. You're looking at your own data point and not looking at how that will get benefited in the organizations. It's not that one person in the organizations is making the success of the company. It's that everyone together is making this organization successful. So that means your data, which you are nurturing it, making sure that other people use the data as well.
Come on back, Prabir. I got to tell you, that is so good. If you're interested in this topic of data, which you should be, we talked about a lot of topics. We talked about data. We talked about AI. It's like a master class in data management, data governance. You did such a great job on that interview. I was studying it the last 2 days just to say which 15 minutes I should show, and I couldn't. Honestly, I couldn't find the only 15 minutes to show. So I may have missed something brilliant. So I'm going to urge everybody just to go to the site, go to Board of Advisors. He's highlighted this week, but go here. You'll see that we may change that picture, but it's Prabir. You click in there, and you can watch this whole thing. And then if you want to connect with him, you connect with him there, but connect with him right here, and he goes directly to his LinkedIn. So that's how that process works. But great job on that, by the way, Prabir.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
It's a really good interview. Hey, a question came in for you, again from Nikhil. Hi, Nikhil. He'll hear this in about 40 seconds, by the way. Is the timing with us and LinkedIn. That's how LinkedIn Live. I'm assuming you are mapping data governance to business value. Do you have any suggestions on that?
Yeah, I think that's a very key thing. Is the mapping to the business process is basic things which you have to do anyway. But the key things is when you are matching the business processes and then identifying the overlapping terms and different controls within that process, which can make the data movement easier and understandable across different process holders. So that is the key things for make successful in that data governance or data management process.
That makes sense. Well, I appreciate you answering that question for him. So, we talked about a bunch of things in the interview. It's on top of everybody's mind. So I'm going to ask you here, if you're the CEO watching this, or you're a CIO watching this, and they say, or a CDO, anybody that's interested in this topic that has to do something in their company, and they say, AI, I got to get AI. What are you saying to them now that you're the CTO of this company, and you do consulting as well as data analytics for people? What are you saying to them? How should they be getting their data ready? What are the steps that every company should be taking right now?
See, the AI has a multiple meaning, right? It's artificial intelligence, right? It varies by different businesses, different industries. If it is a manufacturing company, they can look at AI in different way. But if it is a financial company, they look at the AI in different way. Right? The latest development on the AI side, which is called large language model from the Chatterjee, right? That uses the training data. And the one which is used most of the people which is when it become the most consumer driven ChatGPT through the apps and other things, they are using mostly the outside data, which they used already trained, created their model, and then you are seeing the outcome of those from the external data.
Yeah.
But when I'll be advising the CEOs of the companies, they have to look for what the data they have inside and how they will be harnessing that data through the model, which is available in the industry. So use your large language model within yourself on the data journey. And there is a ton of use cases out there which is being used. I know that the JP Morgan Chase, they're using heavily on this large language model inside the company. So that was my suggestion should be them. Look at the inside data and then see which model you can apply within internal data before you go outside.
That makes a lot of sense. And we talked a little about it more in the interview. I remember you talking about you've got to make sure the data is good. I hope I used the words correctly, but in my terms, the data has to be good. And you also talked about how it has to be a single vision of what's the right data. Because otherwise you could plug stuff into the AI or any of the tools they're using, even the basic BI panel, and people aren't going to make the right decisions. Is that's what you talked about in the interview? I hope I got that right. Correct?
Yes, you are right.
Yeah. Yeah. So another question came in that context. What do you see the role of small domain vocabularies in that context?
That comes into called data literacy, right? And when you're doing all this, content thing, and data literacy is not just only the people who is going to use the data, but the people who is actually creating the data also. And that comes through the various means. It can be improving your process, business process, where the commonality between the different processes you identify, or use different tools. There's a lot of tools in the market which can be giving you the hands on the data governance side, understanding the different terminology and verbiage across the organizations, so that you can tag those along your company process and the different procedures, so that you can take the data from one step to another step. That's
great. Well, we're running out of time, but real quickly, you're in this new role, you're CTO of SPAATech. And I know just from working with you, I've been introducing you to some of the folks in our community. If anybody's watching this, I assume they can reach out to you, and you've been really gracious with your time to just give them advice. Is that accurate?
That absolutely. I think that is the reason I have joined this company, is to whatever it's a long 20-25 years on these models and data areas which I have been working on and helping on a specific companies, 1 or 2 companies. Now I'm ready to help to the companies across the board and working with them and helping them.
Yeah, and I've
working for them.
Everybody, I can attest that I've introduced Prabir to a number of our community members, CXOs, and he's extremely helpful, graciously. And so I have no problem saying, if you have any questions about this topic, please go to Prabir. And here's how you could do it. You could go to our site, go to Board of Advisors, go to Prabir, and this will click you right to our LinkedIn. Or you could just go to LinkedIn and say you saw him here. That would work too, right, Prabir?
That would work, yes.
Yeah, I've got Prabir. That's how you spell his name. But if you need a little help, go through our site, and you'll to get to Prabir, you'll make sure you got the right one. And Prabir, we got to run. So I appreciate you. Thanks for being on our board of advisors and being part of the community. Thanks for the interview, and thanks for just joining us today, just to answer anybody's questions. So I appreciate that.
Sure. Thanks, Alex, for having me.
All right. Talk to you soon. All right. Take care. Bye. Well, that was awesome. So let me get to the slides now. And I'm real conscious on these. For those of you who are regulars, I'm trying to stick to the 1 hour mark. So it's a lunchtime thing, or if you're in the East Coast, hour after lunch, or West Coast, plus on the recording. Because we used to do these really long workshops, and I found that, people, it's hard for them. So we're doing a lot of our work on demand now. That's one of the reasons that we shifted to an online, on demand model. And the show more and more is going to be previews, and then you can go see that. We'll also be on the podcast and the online portion on our site. I'll show you again. Let's go back to the internet and go on the site. I'll show you real quickly a lot of resources you may not be aware of. You go to the Board of Advisors. About half of these have done interviews. So there's a ton of information on these. You click on each of the pages and you see the interview. Also, the Technology Executives Review show, we've got a lot of great segments that I'll be highlighting on this highlight show, but you can watch them directly. And we're starting to really crank and pumping these out. And then the podcast, we actually launched this on our site about 8 months to a year, about a year ago, actually. Let's see. Actually, it was last year sometime. And we're now starting to distribute it on Apple and Spotify. So we're going to start pumping all that content through the podcast. And just look it up, Technology Executives Review, and you could see all of this content. You'll start to see a stream of all this content going through. You'll hear it. On some of the platforms. I'll add some of the videos too, but predominantly it'll be audio. So for those of you who like to drive and listen, which I do a lot, it'll be a great way for you to experience this. So we're out of time, so I'm going to get to the close here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do Rob's on the next one in terms of the preview segment. But again, just go to our site. If you can't wait, Rob's was awesome. I'll show you Rob's. Click on that. He's got some great leadership stories. Again, I'll do the highlights on our next segment, which should be about 2 weeks. And if you can't wait, just go to our site. You can listen to it today. It's awesome. And with that, let me do a close. See all the videos that we talked about today at technologyexecutivesclub.com. And again, you can listen to our content. We're going to be adding all of it on here, and you can go ahead and sign up for free on our podcast on Spotify and Apple, as well as our website for the videos. You can also, while you're at the site, join our complimentary Insiders Club. We're going to give you a lot of free goodies for doing that. And if you want to get involved and be a regular on our media network that we're growing, we got a lot of views. I can share all that with you, but it's a really great way to help people as well as get the word out about what you're doing. Then reach out to us and ask about our Board of Advisor program. And the Board of Advisors, our Board of Advisors is the Board of Advisors to the community. And you just met two of the great ones. And if you're interested, just go to our site, click on the tab that says Discovery Call, and book one of those with me. And I want to close by saying, everybody, thank you for attending. Thank you for watching or listening. It's an honor to serve you and your team. We'll see you on the next one. And again, don't forget to visit us at technologyexecutivesclub.com. Have a great day, everybody. Appreciate all of you.